All right, welcome everybody. I am here today with Pat Stedman. Now, Pat is a dating and relationship coach for men. He says, I read people like books and help them change their story. Welcome, Pat.
Thanks, Tony. It's good to be here.
Tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Just real quick, I have probably a fairly typical story for at least a lot of people who get involved in this corner of the internet. Um, I didn't really understand anything about women when I was younger. I had a high school girlfriend. She was very beautiful, but she sort of picked up me. So we had a relationship, and I was very needy and some people would call it beta.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually that relationship ended and she broke up with me. And I was completely devastated. I had no idea how I had gotten her. And I had no idea how I would ever get a girl as attractive as her again. And so I was walking down the campus one day and I saw the game in the bookstore. And, without going into the details of the whole story, I got exposed to a whole different world, and the idea that I could change who I was entered into my mind. And so I went deep into it. At first, I was actually kind of trying to get her back, but then it just became like I'm going to date women, and I'm going to get good at this, and really got a lot of my mentorship from people at the Social Man. So that'd be Christian Hudson, but particularly Nick Sparks. I trained under Nick and learned a lot about basically in-person attraction from him. And my start as a coach, I got into that area because at this point I was doing really well with women. And then I started to get serious with a girl who I would later marry. And I wanted to get into entrepreneurship. And I was kind of like the biggest poster at that time in Nick Sparks' private group. And basically I put out there like I wanted to get into business, but I didn't know what I wanted to get into. And they encouraged me to get into coaching because they said, you've really just been helping us out so much over the last 2 years. So I did it, and I haven't looked back since.
Okay. Well, that's a pretty good story and a good start to sounds like a successful business. What is your most, I guess, asked question as a dating coach?
Well, recently, a lot of people have been asking me about girls and their lay counts and stuff like that. Most asked question in general, though. Most asked question, throughout my career, and things that I think most guys struggle with is anxiety and being able to, and that manifests as approach anxiety. But I think to really just say kind of an anxiety around women in general and an issue with dealing with tension. Because if you look at escalation, people are like, well, I have a hard time approaching. Or they're like, or I have a hard time escalating. But really the entire process, I mean, you can look at the entire, seduction process as a series of going from tension, trust, tension, trust, tension, trust. And most guys really struggle to manage tension, to manage that energy within them. And so the same thing that stops a guy from being able to approach is the same thing that stops him on a deeper level from being able to, go for the kiss or take her home.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you a question about the red pill. Would you consider yourself red pill or red pilled?
Well, I would consider myself red pilled. I wouldn't call myself red pill. I don't really associate with that label because I think that the label has been sort of sullied. And I don't know, when people say that they're red pill, I'm always like, well, what do you mean by that? Because there's one person's red pill is not another person's red pill. So there are some, you can call them like maybe the bitter red pillars, and they will take an awareness of how women operate on a sort of like what is the darker sexual impulse of a woman, What is a woman's sort of biological imperative, you might say. And they take that, but the problem is that they fixate on it. They don't integrate it. They don't see it in a broader context. And so basically, I just don't think that they help guys to get better with women, because by fixating on a narrow truth, they actually miss a bigger truth. And I don't think that their direction leads guys to any sort of semblance of a good life with women. So I think it's important, though, to understand that. And where the mainstream goes wrong is the mainstream tries to pretend that this part of women, the shadow, and that's really how I like to describe it. I mean, the red pill, hypergamy, this is like the female shadow. And that's a thing that a guy needs to understand if he's not going to get burned by a woman. But if he just simply stays there, then, well, that's not how you build a relationship. And it's not necessary to stay there.
There's so many labels in the manosphere. Everybody's labeled red pill, and what you maybe described would be called black pill. Is that correct? Isn't that kind of like, if you say when somebody kind of stays in that either angry state or that state where all women are bad, isn't that more of a black pill?
That's a really good way to put it. Yeah. I mean, I usually see black pill in a political context, but it's true that you could make a strong case that a lot of these so-called red pill people are really just black pilling. All this said, there are things like I consider the red pill to be really fundamental knowledge, but the stuff that I do with my clients goes a bit beyond it. And I think that there's a context towards the red pill, and it's a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be covering in the book. I'm writing, or trying to write.
Okay.
A little slow the last 2 weeks, but you know, so it's and we can talk about that, but it's the red pill to me is something that's necessary, but it's not the full picture.
Okay, so you're using it as a tool, basically. It's one of your tools in your toolbox.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Okay.
I explore a lot of different, I suppose you could say different groups, or different ways of dealing with stuff with women. I think that a lot of the things I've been looking at now, like I get a lot into deeper psychology, like Jungian psychology, internal family systems. So I do a lot of like trauma healing with clients on top of the stuff I would do that's more tactical. And that has to do with understanding female psychology. So I wear a lot of different hats, and I think it's one of the reasons that I do really well with clients, because I can take them through almost every stage that they would go through with a woman, like really deep, serious relationships, whether it's harems, or whether it's, you know, just going up and trying to date girls. I've sort of gone through the whole cycle, and I understand where guys get stuck along the way. And so if I feel like, okay, this guy has some anxiety issue, and, you know, just kind of talking through with him, that's not working. So then I'll look for things that maybe would work. And I also, a lot of these things I've used on myself. So I'll work with people if I feel like they have something really interesting to teach me, and I'll take it. And if it makes a shift in me, then I distill it and I pull it kind of into my broader toolbox. So.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, that's interesting. Let me ask you another question. You have two different men. One's 21 and one's 51. Do you approach those guys different?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that, so the fundamentals are always the fundamentals. That doesn't change regardless of your age. But, and that's is a really good question, Tony, because I think one of the big problems with a lot of dating and relationship advice, and this includes a lot of things that you hear in the red pill, is that there's not a lot of context to how it's used. I am all about context. I don't think that you can actually determine the truth unless you understand the context of the situation, because the truth is going to be like how to approach something, what to do is based on that context.
Okay.
So a 51-year-old like man is going to be in a much different stage of life than a 21-year-old kid, right? It's very, very different. 21-year-old's probably going to be in college, so he's going to have to be dealing with the social dynamics of, college is a very specific tribal structure. So he's going to have to understand the tribal structure of the school and how to, like, social circle game is extraordinarily important in college. A lot of the cold approach stuff becomes more valuable outside of college, but in college itself, especially in moderate sized schools, you have to protect your reputation a lot. Mm-hmm. And so the big thing is really trying to get into the scene. So for kids in college who I've worked with, that's where we focus on. And we do deep work as well. The other thing, of course, which is fortunate about somebody who's younger, is that the psychological stuff is much easier to move. If you're dealing with someone in their 20s who has some psychological stuff going on, some baggage, the chances of moving through it are pretty much certain. If they're in their 30s, it's going to take a little bit more work, but it's still totally doable. 40s, it starts to get tough, and 50s, it can be really hard to shift a guy's mental state and emotional state because there's been so much accumulated baggage. But for someone in their 50s, right, to answer the question more directly, you're not going to obviously be talking about that tribal structure, and for him, his social system is going to be very different. A lot of his people in his network are going to be married, so he's either going to have to go to, like, kind of get specific spots where he knows that the women he's interested in are going to go to, and kind of make himself a regular there to meet women that way. He's going to either or he's going to have to, I mean, if he has a bigger network, he can still meet other women, but he also has to be aware that maybe there's going to be some divorced women in the mix. If he's dating much younger, there are things he can do for his profile online if he wants to do that. But yeah, the context around what he's going to be doing, and also, of course, another piece of context is, what is he looking for, right? Is he divorced and he's just looking to, hook up with some attractive younger women? That's
but wouldn't that be probably a guy in his 50s that's reaching out for dating coaching has probably just had some trauma? Most likely has gone through a divorce, I would imagine. Been married 30 years and then it's over. So.
That most likely, or the end of a serious relationship. Also, I have had guys though, who have, I mean, the range of my clientele, I go from guys who are, virgins and have a real hard time. They've never done anything with a girl. They've had a hard time even talking to girls for a while. I've gone to guys who are excellent with women. Like, they've, very, very wealthy, like Christian Grey kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But their problem is more of a quality issue, that they're not attracting the women that they really want, or they have a hard time creating the sort of relationship that they want with a woman because of some emotional blocks. So it goes from some sort of like basics to very advanced stuff. Okay. And some of those guys have been in their 50s on the latter category.
Okay. So you would coach a man also that's getting a divorce. And I'm going to add to this question. What about, have you just ever told anybody, or not getting a divorce, or let's say he's having a problem with his marriage. Have you ever told anybody it's over? That's it? Like, get out. Okay.
I mean, I always make it clear that people are going to make their choices. Mm-hmm. Like, one of the things that I do with coaching is a lot of people think coaching is, I'm going to give you some advice about something. Mm-hmm. I'm going to tell you what to do. And that's what some people do for coaching. I don't really think that that's effective. And it certainly doesn't allow you to, I mean, maybe it does some things, but a lot of people kind of know, I mean, they've read stuff, and maybe you put a little bit more force to it, and your energy makes them accept it a bit more. But really, what people make bad decisions, not usually, partly because of knowledge, but a lot of it is really just emotional patterns. Like, they can't receive it. So if someone's in a really dysfunctional relationship and they're having problems, they want to get it fixed, like, they kind of already know that they should leave it, and I can tell them, what's going on, and that this is where it's going. but I'm also aware that they may have to work through the pattern. And so the way that I kind of describe it is, it's like I'm throwing a rope around them and they're going to go in the quicksand. So I'm like, I know you're going to go in the quicksand. So here's the rope. Like, I got you. And I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. And so go ahead if you want to experience it. Go and experience it, but experience it with awareness. So understand what's occurring. And that makes like guys really start to learn from that, because they'll go and it's like the hot stove. I'm like, you touch that stove, you're going to burn yourself. They're like, yeah, but like, I mean, maybe you're right, but I still have to touch it. It's like, okay. But now they understand, like, yeah, don't touch the stove. So in the context of like a relationship falling apart, or like, I will tell them what the situation is, but they always have to make their own choices with it. But if a guy comes to me and he's like, can you save my marriage? I don't ever say that to people. I don't ever agree to that. What I say is that my job here is to make you into the kind of guy that can have a good marriage. And I'm going to show you what you can do to lead her and to lead this relationship in a different direction. But at the end of the day, it's up to her if she wants to come along. And I can only guarantee that if you do the work, that your life is going to get better. I can't guarantee that the relationship is going to be, you're going to save the relationship. Because unfortunately, also, a lot of guys come to me after things are already, not all, but many come to me when things are already pretty critical. So it's like, I got stage 4 cancer. Can you save me? It's like, well, it took a long time for you to come in.
Do you ever find that somebody's not telling you the truth? In other words, they're not, you're putting it together, but something's just not right, and they won't actually tell you everything they need to tell you.
Absolutely. Sometimes it's because sometimes it's not because they're not like lying to me usually, but they were withholding information. And I ask a lot of questions with people, because I really want to understand, like I said, like the context is really important if I'm going to help them. And so I ask a ton of questions to try to really understand the situation. If somebody is not giving me information, I can tell that there's a discrepancy. And sometimes it's there because there's a lot of shame and there's blocks. And so I can help I can dig it out. Like, people don't put things past me. But I tell clients coming in basically that you're not going to be able to hide stuff from me. So don't waste our time and just tell.
It makes sense, because if they're not telling you everything that's going on, how can you help them?
Yeah.
They might be looking for a specific outcome and trying to I guess just kind of trick you into thinking, okay, this is what's happened. But I guess if you ask them the specific questions, you can find that out pretty easily.
Yeah. And the good news, Tony, is that at this point in my career, I've started to polarize my audience pretty well. So whereas 2 years ago, I would get more guys like that who were just, as far as just be blunt, kind of full of shit, and would kind of talk to me like they're full of shit. Now, like, my sensor is even more aligned to it. And those people usually don't even reach out because they just, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn. Maybe it's just somebody else that they would prefer to work with. But let's just say I'm not the kind of person that they think about going to. And if I get somebody who comes in, I'm pretty good at setting the standards for them or pushing them out. Like, I won't work with them if they're really just have no self-awareness.
So I've been getting your emails. I've looked at your websites, and I notice you handle all spectrums of dating, relationships. Let's talk about something that I'm going to say maybe 60% of all men are doing, and that's online dating. So how do you coach a guy with that?
Well, online, so people, I think every guy, if they're being honest with themselves, they're going to, every coach, right? Every every guru in this corner. They're gonna emphasize that there's certain areas that they're better at than others. For instance, if a guy's big dream with women is they want to be like a hardcore cold approacher, and they want to approach women on the street. They want to be like day game king. I'm good. I'm proficient in day game. I've picked up girls off the street. I've dated girls. I picked up. I am not, Krauser, right? There are, and I would never pretend to be. So if somebody really wants that, either they should only work, they should work with somebody else in that capacity, or they should maybe work with both of us, whatever. But my two big things that I really excelled at were social circle game and online dating. So social circle, I mean, I know how to build networks very, very quickly, make lots of friends. And I've kind of went from the bottom of that, of like having no friends, to being really big with that. So I also understand how to go from like 0 to hero, so to speak. But online, I also did really well at, and I think it's because I'm very good at reading subtext and making inferences about people. And I've also got a good cadence for writing. So with clients, one of the big things I'll do with clients, and for the record, I want to say, I don't think that guys should rely on online dating. I like it as like a portion of the portfolio, right? Think of it like an investment portfolio. I like it, as maybe being 20 to 30%. It's good for guys especially more attractive guys, to get leads and to get some practice, but you're always going to be getting lower quality than you would be getting in real life online. So that needs to be understood by people. It is the low hanging fruit, and the low hanging fruit isn't the right.
Why is that?
Well, you think about it with anything. What has the lowest barrier to entry is going to get the most mediocrity, right? So to be great at anything, to get like the best rewards, you have to be, you have to excel in a niche that other people are not willing to go into. So for instance, the guys who get really good at day game, I mean, you will meet girls who you would never meet otherwise out there, right? And you can attract them. That's a skill that other guys don't have. And people aren't willing to put the work in. I mean, if you're doing cold street approach, that is a lot of work. That is so there's that. Whereas everybody, like your average person, is just going to go online, right? So it's easy enough to throw up a profile. A girl who doesn't really have much of an interesting life, like the girls that have really interesting lives and have a lot of stuff going on. And yes, I'm generalizing. Of course, there's exceptions. But they're generally not going to go online because they have bigger social circles and they're meeting, cool people through that. So you just kind of have like a lot of mediocrity that goes online. And, I don't think it was always quite that way. But now it's so mainstreamed that, yeah. And women also, there's 3 times as many guys as women on there. So women are getting like deluged by messages, and so their own self-importance is inflated. So but one of the things I work on with guys is making their profile really, really tight, and also reading girls' profiles and helping them to understand like who this girl is. When you see this girl, what do you notice about her? Making inferences based on what she's written, where she's been, how she looks, how she dresses. So that can be really good to help guys across the board with reading people and making assumptions. And so, yeah, that's a piece that I do. Also help them with messaging, although tackling texting, my book does a really good job of going into that. It's like $5.
Tell me about that. It's called, you're the author of Tackling Texting and the 14-Hour Course, the Pat Stedman Masterclass.
Yeah, so I have 2 things out right now. Got a book coming out in a couple months. That's going to be like a real proper book. I look at Tackling Texting, which is my first published piece. It's a book, but it's really more of a manual. And I say that not to downplay it, because it's really good. Like it takes you from when you get a girl's number or when you match with her all the way to the date. gives examples. It goes through deeper sort of principles to hold and gets very, very tactical. But it is like a manual. It's something that you can reference really easily and go through it. So I think it's wonderful, but I kind of put it in that box. Then I have, of course, the Pat Stedman Masterclass, and that's a more premium thing. My coaching clients also work with that, and that's 14 hours. It's actually about to get expanded to probably close to 20 hours. So and the price is going to go up a bit. It's $500 now. So if people get it now, they're going to get grandfathered into the new content. So
okay.
But at any rate,
I have a question for you about texting, and this is because I've been asked this question, and I've been asked this by different guys. I don't want to say I do any coaching, but because people know that I'm involved in Manosphere, involved with Men in 21 convention, they reach out to me for advice just by, just because I'm involved in that. And they've asked me, can you escalate during texting? I mean, should you escalate during texting? I know I do, but I've had that question asked to me. What's your deal on that?
So when you say escalate, you mean like sexually escalate?
Yeah, sexually and basically escalating either can be sexually or escalating to actually move the date forward. Because most guys who do online dating know that a lot of women are just, they just want a chat buddy to get past the chat buddy.
Okay, gotcha. So a little spoiler. The two key things to keep in mind with texting is that you only text a girl to get her on a date or to add value. And the only reason you add value is to get her on the date. So it's really everything goes back to getting her in person. It is one of the worst things that guys do is that they don't have any sort of direction with their texting. They let the girl sort of dictate the aimless pace of things, and the girl doesn't want that. I mean, she'll take the attention and she'll go and chat with you at least for a while until she gets bored of it. But it's totally a way to kill the attraction. So everything with texting is the spike. It's like the spike attraction, and then when you get that investment, to use that investment to move forward towards the date. Everything that you're doing is towards that trajectory. So yeah, everything. The book is basically designed to get the girl on the date. That's the entire purpose of it. Sexting is more of an advanced skill, and frankly, I think it's optional. I mean, like I've done it, and I've done it well, and I've had girls come from my words, but for a lot of guys, they want to get to that, and it's just you can do that in person, right? And there's a lot of if you don't know what you're doing, you're more likely to mess things up from sexting than you are to improve your situation. So I don't consider it an essential piece, but it can be fun.
So what you're saying is don't send a dick pic right off the bat.
Don't send a dick pic unless your dick is huge. Don't.
That's funny. Also, I noticed you seem to be a pretty spiritual guy, and I've reading your stuff. You're into and I don't know. I guess I don't know if you're Christian or not, but you are a spiritual guy. But I noticed you talk about vibrations, low and high vibrations. How does that all work into what you're doing?
Well, it's a big part of it's like a little bit of a teaser for the book coming out, but energy is okay. So let's try to, like, a lot of people get scared off by this because they think it just sounds like nonsense. It's woo woo. They're very rational. They want to know the facts. If I do this thing, I should do this thing. And then maybe they move towards, okay, this is female psychology. And so they can rely on psychological triggers. But when you start to talk about energy, it's like, what is this guy talking about? Now, how can I use it? Like, they can't even relate to it. Seems impractical. But at the same time, there's an acknowledgement that there are naturals, right? There are guys who are good with women, got no idea what they're doing. but they're just good with women, right?
Mm-hmm.
And from the guys who really get experience out in the field, you know, people like Krauser, right?
Mm-hmm.
They will start to acknowledge that, well, really what she's looking for is your vibe. That's what she's drawn towards. And they're like, okay, yeah, I kind of get it. You got to improve your vibe. But a lot of people fall short with it, and they go into things like, you got to get in state. And for the record, I'm not against that. I think, but when people say you got to get in state, well, all they're saying is you got to raise your energy level. So there's implicit acknowledgement that energy plays a role with this stuff. It's that if you approach it or in that vibration, because vibe is vibration, but
Mm-hmm.
people get scared off when you sort of use more of these hippie terms with it. But the reason it matters is because based on where your energy level's at, and I can explain this a little bit, but based on where your energy level's at is going to determine everything about how you should approach a woman and about basically the where her own kind of psychology's at. So you can sort of distinguish it between low, middle, and high. Low vibration stuff is like where you would get the very bottom. You have like shame and guilt. You're going to have things like lust. You're going to have anger. You're going to have a lot of the things that are often classified as sins, but are really just like pain points that people tend to project outward or project inwards. They don't feel very good about themselves. And when people are in this lower level, then they're much more influenced by biological triggers, right? Biological triggers, something like a guy being rich, a girl who's in a low vibration, a low vibration woman is going to be like, oh, they're going to care about that, or they're going to care about like to an inordinate amount status, right? It's not that as if these things never matter. Of course, they always matter, but there's a greater emphasis on them on these lower areas because there's less awareness and there's more emotional trauma. And so a lot of the red pill describes women at their lower vibration stage. Now, as you get towards mid vibration as a guy, most of the guys in the manosphere who are outside of that bitter corner are going to be clustering around here. And it's really like you can, if you were going to separate into low and high, you would consider the mid to be high, because this is where people have jumped into courage. They're moving away from fear-based behavior, and they're taking risks. Like the guy who says, I need to get better with women, I'm going to start cold approaching. He's moved into courage. So he's moved out of that lower victim field. And here, things in this midfield, things get a little bit more muddled, because you have the biological aspect of women that still plays a big role, but then you also have more other higher things, and you can see that a woman is not just defined, the women who are in this sort of area, they're not just like gold diggers, right? But if you lose your job and you kind of fall off the wagon, then they might start to move away, right? So there's more of like a mixed thing in there, and that's where most of my work has taken place. But there is also on the higher end, and when you move towards the higher end, it's really like you're motivated by really just joy and love, and you're very positive, and just really making people feel love for themselves around them. And when you move to this level, relationships are very, very different. I mean, and it's not to say that like it's a spectrum, right? And you're dealing with pockets constantly from the lower areas, but some of the things that people talk about, like this is how you get a girl. It's like, this is how you get a girl when she's at this vibration state and you're at this vibration state. But when you change it and you go further up, it's not going to work on a girl. So, so yeah.
I mean, would that apply to, let's say you're on a first date. Let's say I'm on a first date, and within 5 minutes, I can tell I don't want to be here another 5 minutes. Is that kind of what you're talking about too? Is like I'm getting just a horrible vibe from her,
100%.
And can we mistake that for the hell with it? I'm just gonna have sex with her anyways. Low vibration, high vibration. You know what I mean? I mean, that can be an option also, can it?
It can, right? I mean, this is the thing. It's to thine own self be true. For some guys, or at least in some situations, that's what he's looking for, and he'll go forward and he'll do it, and he'll be fine with it, right? It won't make a difference to him. I found a lot of guys will go forward with that though because they feel like they have to. It comes from usually a lack of abundance in other areas. Like, oh well, this girl's here and she sucks, but I want to get my nut off. And then what tends to happen is that they either don't feel great about themselves afterwards, or they actually have some performance problems while trying to do the act because they're out of alignment with themselves. So, but I mean, I'm very much open to people. Like, I try to help people figure out their path and where they want to go. And I think that people need to work through things and experience things in order to move past them. But 100%, I mean, Tony, 100%, when you go on a date with a woman and you can tell, like, oh man, I just do not like being around her. She's got bad energy. Maybe she's having a bad day and you caught her at the wrong time, but probably it's more of a baseline thing because even on a bad day, people usually aren't so far off from where they would normally be.
So. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, when you started explaining it, I wasn't quite sure until you started explaining it on kind of what you meant. But I do know, and you can get that with a friend or whatever. I mean, when you meet somebody, you can just get it. Whether it's just a man friend, you can get a bad vibe from him, whether it's awkward or something off-putting to you. You know, so that's kind of cool.
It's everything. It's in everything. You can see it in you know the difference between a politician and a statesman, right? There's a lot of variation with people, and you know I don't think some people like it because they like to put things in a really logical container. But I mean, I'm a logical person, but I'm also like I think that reason is also a false god, and that a lot of people get trapped. And I've seen people who have just destroyed themselves trying to take a materialist view of humanity and a materialist view of dating. I mean, it just does not bring happiness. Even if you get laid a lot, does not make them feel very good.
Yeah, but you do coach guys that just
want
to get laid. Period.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's
no
one
question.
Of your coaching things too.
No question. But you know, I will say that usually it's like I need to go get experience. I want to like go out and play the field, but usually there's something like deeper down the line that they're interested in. Usually, not always, but usually, the guys who, and this is why I think it's important that people figure out who they want to work with when it comes to coaching, because there are some guys who, like, they are, like, their entire thing is based in like clubs, right? And they pick up girls in clubs and they play like a game in that area, and they hook up with a lot of girls, like one night stands, and that's cool. Like that's cool, but that's people who are going to be doing that and who are trying to run club game and just run up notches. You know, that's like if a guy says I want to get as many notches as possible, like we're almost certainly not a good fit, because that's very different as far as I'm concerned from I want to, you know, go and play the field for a bit.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, yeah, but that guy would probably be somebody who is not good with women at all and probably hasn't been with many women at all, I would imagine.
Well, that's usually true. That's usually true. Because what they're doing is they're creating some sort of fantasy. They think that if they get that, like you know, 100, 200 notches, that they're going to feel like a man. They're going to feel like women like them, that they're good with women. So that does usually play a part. But there are some people who, you know, where they are sort of at with their energy and with their goals is different. And you know, we all have a resonance towards some people or others based on, you know, we can see like this person, the way that they operate, that's the kind of relationship, that's the kind of dynamic I want to have. And I think that that's where people should, if you, when you're looking for mentors, you should look at people who, if not are living how you want to live, you can see parts of them, you can resonate with their energy on a certain level that you want to go with it. So, and that all happens very unconsciously. A lot of it's just that we don't pay attention to it, right? It's like,
yeah. Now, I've met you at 21 convention, and let's put it this way. You gave me a good vibration. And one of the reasons why I could see you were passionate at what you do is there was times where people were sitting around the pool and I saw you on your phone walking, pacing, and coaching guys
Yeah.
while you were at 21 when other
Yeah.
guys were relaxing. So to me, I notice those things. I do. I know, I tend to pick up certain things about people. You know what I mean? Some guy, and not saying that other guys don't deserve a vacation or to relax, but you were all business the whole time. I mean, I did see you on the phone a lot, and I did ask you one time, and you had said, "Oh, I've got a coaching call coming up." So, and
Yeah.
I saw you pacing around the pool area. So, that to me that tells a lot about a person that they're into what they're doing,
That
So,
that's cool that you noticed that. It's impressive. Yeah, it's actually something I've been trying to work on is to give myself a little bit, like, to really make sure I take a day off each
mhm.
week where I can really just unplug from it, because I was starting to get drained. I would have some days I'd have like 10 hours straight of calls. We were talking about this. I had a coaching call. I had a coaching call before this interview. I have one, in like 10 minutes. So I've been trying
Okay.
to,
Yeah.
part of my own kind of growth has been setting aside more time for myself, so that
Mhm.
I can serve better. It's kind of like a boundary thing for me, because we're always
Yeah.
learning. We're always growing
Yeah.
from this. But I
Yeah.
really do care about.
So you
I really care about my clients. It's like I love them.
mhm.
I love them.
And that was real. That was obvious to me. I mean, that was obvious when I saw you. I mean, you were on the phone quite a bit. So, and to me, I don't think that's not disrespectful, but it's respectful to your clients and everybody that's you're working with. So I think that's very respectable to do that. Now you're going to be speaking at the 21 convention and I got it right here, the 22 convention. So
That's
tell me,
right.
how are
That's
you going to
right.
make women great again?
Oh man. Well, I'm still working on the details of the speeches, but where I think I'm going with the 22 convention is I'm going to be talking about basically a woman's need to do things that make herself happy, like
Mhm.
actually happy, in order so that she is not going to be trying to drain a man's energy. Because one of the things that, talking about the energy thing, if you want to get into like esoteric masculinity and femininity, men are sort of like life and women are death. And that's not in a disrespectful way. It's just like a yang, yin yang kind of thing, that men tend to have a problem. Like the man puts life into the woman, who then life comes out of that, and a man sort of seeks out this release, right? His labor in life is kind of like his reward is death. So men are
Mhm.
always kind of seeking out this emptiness, and women are always seeking out to try to get energy from guys. And so you have this situation where men have a hard time controlling their energy, which is like porn, etc., porn, drinking, whatever, and women have a hard time cultivating it. And so I'm going to be talking about women really dealing with a lot of their emotional pains and emotional baggage, because the problem that women face is that they don't have honest communities like the Manosphere is. The Manosphere is, you know, at its worst, a little bit too rah-rah, black and white, one-dimensional,
Mhm.
but it does attempt to tell people the truth, right? On a
Mhm.
regular basis, it's all about the truth, which is a very masculine energy, right?
Mhm.
But in female communities, and I've spent time in them because I'm always trying to learn. Okay, a lot of the energy healing stuff comes from female communities, but they tend to have a very hard time with telling women the truth and saying like, "Hey, this is something you have to
Mhm.
deal with." And so in my speech, I'm going to be trying to provide that very gently, gently, because you
Mhm.
got to be gentle with
Mhm.
women.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah. So it's
but
kind of
yeah, because
like what you're saying. So what you're saying by that is, let's say, I mean, to me, this is just a typical example. you could have one girl who's beautiful and everybody's seen this, and then you have one girl who's completely out of shape and is an absolute wreck, and she'll say, "Oh, how do I look? Oh, you look great, girl. You go. You're good like you are." I mean,
Yeah.
we've all heard that. And to me, that's really competition between two women.
Oh
Is
yeah.
what it is. So it's not really, "Oh, you're good, girl." No, it's more of a competition is what I think.
Oh, you said it, Tony. I mean, they sabotage each other left and right.
Hmm.
And it's just awful. I think it's awful. But the other part of it is that if you are honest to a woman without approaching it the right way, um, and I'm not talking about in like necessarily a personal relationship, because at that
Hmm.
point you should have enough build up. But if you're just telling like a girl, like a friend, you have to be you have to really get buy-in from them. Like whenever like girls will ask me
Hmm.
dating advice, and I'll be like, "Do you really want my advice on this?" They're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Are you sure?" Because this is like,
Hmm.
"Do you really want to hear it?" And then they kind of brace themselves and they're like, "Yes, like I want to hear the truth." And then I can tell them. Then I can say like, "You're
Hmm.
not dressed well, and you need to lose 10 pounds." Right? I can say something like that, or I can say, this is not what guys are looking for, and you're trying to provide this. But you really have to get buy-in. Otherwise, what they do immediately is it just devastates them, and they'll very often, and they could try to make some sort of character assassination campaign. But the reality is, I don't tell people things unless they
Hmm.
they want to hear them. I learned that lesson.
And you're not doing it maliciously. I mean, when somebody says, "Oh, I'd like to hear it," a lot of times they can take it the wrong way. But sometimes letting people know, and the difference is what basically what you're saying is that, as men, we're going to tell women actually the way we feel and what we want, where a woman speaking to another woman will sugarcoat it. And so
Yeah,
there's going to be no sugarcoating here, but it's going to be a little bit gentle. So you're not, you know.
right, right. I mean, women
Hmm.
today, they don't really have a lot of men who would tell them these things, and they don't really have. I mean, because the reality is that, okay, a woman can't trust another woman her age to tell her the truth. Rare exceptions. Like
Hmm.
one of the most rare, it's beautiful when you see it, but I feel bad for women, and I'm talking to female friends, they feel the same way. It is a reason why women will often try to become friends with men, even though it's very muddied waters. But
Hmm.
they, like, it's very difficult for a woman to find another woman her age who she can trust, who is
Hmm.
going to not try to stab her in the back. Whereas men have enemies, but they also have like brotherhoods and loyalty and whatnot.
Hmm.
Male friendships are much more robust than female friendships.
Hmm.
Women historically were, there's all sorts of mythology around this, but older women were supposed to tell younger women the truth
Hmm.
about how things work. And the sort of witch, like the old crone, would have been, the the sort of middle-aged wine mom feminist today who is telling them all
Hmm.
these terrible things that's making them ruin their life, right? That would have been mythologically considered to be like an evil witch. But because
Hmm.
that's like a lot of older women have sort of been brainwashed into it, they don't tell younger women the truth. And so that entire honesty culture has collapsed. And it collapsed for men too, but men are really doing much better job with this honesty than women are, because I think the Manosphere, one of the reasons it's really good is because it's creating a new culture of men
Hmm.
telling the truth versus like the
Hmm.
kind of weak, spineless guys who won't say what they want from a woman, um, and won't dare to hurt a woman's feelings because what if she gets pissed off or gets offended or
Hmm. Hmm. Well,
so.
this is going to be interesting, and I look forward to seeing you again at the 21 convention in October. Pat, tell everybody how they can contact you, reach you, all your platforms.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Pat _Stedman. That's Stedman, and also my email list, sign up for that. I usually send out about 3 emails a week on average. With the book, it's been a little bit slower recently, but I'm going to kick that back up again next week. That's patstedman.com/opt-in. So patstedman.com/opt-in and at @pat_Stedman. So, but Tony, I mean, thank you so much for having me on, and I'm looking forward to seeing you at 21 and 22 Con too. I think, I don't know about you, but I think that this year is going to be crazy because of all the stuff going on. I think 21 Con's always good, but this year, like, people who are thinking, oh, I don't know if I'm going to go, you don't want to miss this one. Like, I just feel it. I don't know why.
I agree.
Feel it. So
I agree. Yeah. Well, it's especially the year we've had. I mean, this is going to be a great time, a great release for everybody. Everybody's going to gather and just have a great time. Not only that, you're going to learn something. You're going to learn about yourself. You're going to learn about relationships. So there's everything good can come from it. So I encourage everybody to buy a ticket, and I will leave links down below in this video for anybody who wants to attend and see Pat. And you can have dinner with Pat. You can have a drink with Pat. So that's the way it works with 21. Everybody's available. So
yeah, I'm very accessible.
But I do appreciate your time. Yeah, for sure. I appreciate your time, and I will see you soon.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.